They say intimacy fades with age, but the first thing that disappears isn't desire. It's something far more silent, something most men never even notice until it's already gone. It begins in the bloodstream, in the tiniest vessels, the ones that fuel your morning strength, your evening warmth, and the quiet confidence that says, "I'm still a man." What if I told you that your body hasn't given up, that the feelings you think are lost might just be waiting for a signal? Not from a pill, not from a prescription, but from something as simple as 4 natural foods you've probably walked past 100 times. I've spent over 3 decades helping older men reclaim what they thought was gone forever. And what I've learned, what I've seen, is that when circulation is restored, so is connection. So is confidence. So is love. You don't need to be young to feel alive. You just need the right spark. And sometimes that spark can come from something as small as a walnut or a pistachio. This is not about fantasy, ills. It's about biology, about understanding the truth behind why intimacy fades and how to bring it back naturally, gently, and with dignity. So let me ask, have you noticed your hands getting colder? Your thoughts getting foggier? The silence between you and your partner growing a little louder? If any part of you has quietly wondered, is this it? Then you need to hear what comes next. Because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the truth about aging, blood flow, and the 4 simple foods that can help reopen the pathways that once made you feel whole. Don't go anywhere. This might be the most important message you hear all year. He didn't notice it at first. It wasn't like a light switch flipping off. It was more like a dimmer switch, turning down. First came the cold feet, then the restless nights. The mornings where his body used to rise with the sun now passed without a stir. He thought maybe it was the mattress. Maybe it was stress. Maybe it was just age doing what age does. But deep down, something else was shifting, not just in his body, in his sense of self. What Robert didn't know, what most men don't, is that the first signs of declining intimacy aren't about mood. They're about circulation. The smallest vessels in your body, the ones in your brain, your hands, your heart, and yes, the ones that supply your manhood, begin to narrow. They stiffen. They struggle to carry the blood that once flowed like a river. And when the flow slows down, so does everything else. Your body becomes less responsive, not because it's broken, but because the signals can't get through. You might still feel desire in your mind, but your body doesn't pick up the call. The message gets lost somewhere between memory and muscle. And this isn't just about sex. It's about the quiet erosion of something deeper. Presence, confidence, warmth. You stop reaching for your partner, not because you don't care, but because part of you is afraid you won't feel anything back. You stop looking in the mirror, not because you've changed, but because it hurts to remember what it used to feel like to be proud of the man staring back at you. And the most dangerous part of all, you begin to accept it, to shrink yourself, to believe that this quiet fading is normal. But here's the truth. It's not. What you're experiencing isn't just aging. It's a circulatory slowdown. It's biological, and it's reversible. With the right signals, nutrients, oxygen, support, those same vessels can open again. And with them, so can your connection, your confidence, and your closeness. Paul came to the clinic with a note in his hand, not a referral, not a prescription. Just a single line scribbled in careful handwriting. I don't feel like myself anymore. His name was Robert, 67 years old, retired high school teacher. married for over 40 years. No history of major illness, no surgeries, just one quiet crisis that no one around him could see. He sat down across from me and tried to smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Doc," he said, "I'm not trying to be 20 again. I just want to feel like a man who can reach for his wife without wondering if anything will happen." His story was one I had heard in different forms 100 times. The body hadn't stopped working entirely. It just stopped responding on its own. No more early morning stirrings. No more spontaneous warmth. Only silence. And the growing fear that it was permanent. I asked him what his mornings looked like. He said he used to stretch, make coffee, and greet his wife with a kiss on the cheek. Lately, he stayed in bed longer, hoping something would awaken. But nothing did. I gave him something simple. Not a pill, not a pump. Just a routine. 5 walnuts every morning, consistently. 10 times. He didn't believe it would work, but he was willing to try. 2 weeks later, he came back with flushed cheeks. "Doc," he said, almost embarrassed, "my hands are warm again." It wasn't much, but to Robert, it was the first sign that something inside him was moving. A week later, he noticed he was sleeping deeper. Then he began reaching for his wife's hand again, not out of duty, but because he wanted to. And one morning he whispered, "It happened." No schedule, no pressure, just him. Just her. Just presence. That's the thing about blood flow. When it returns, it doesn't just restore function, it restores intention. And Robert wasn't alone. There was Gerald, 72, who said, "It's not the gray hair that bothers me, it's the quiet. The kind that fills the room when I turn off the light and nothing happens." He didn't need counseling, he needed circulation. We added a handful of pistachios to his evening routine. By week 3, his voice held a tremble, not of weakness, but relief. "It's not perfect," he told me, "but it's back. That spark, that closeness, and I missed it more than I thought." Then there was Thomas, 68. He sat across from me and didn't say a word for the first 5 minutes. When he finally spoke, his voice cracked. "Doc, I feel like I'm fading, not sick, just missing." For Thomas, the shift wasn't in the bedroom, it was in the mirror. He didn't recognize the man he had become. Tired, distant, unsure. We started small, a handful of almonds in the afternoon. He didn't expect much, but 3 weeks in, he looked me in the eye and said, "I feel steady again, stronger, not just down there, in here." And he tapped his chest. That's what matters. And not fireworks, not fantasy, just the return of something real. The quiet strength of being present in your own body again. Most men believe their intimacy fades because they're older. But aging isn't the cause. It's just the trigger. The real culprit? What quietly tightens its grip year after year is poor circulation. Not in the heart, but in the smallest vessels. The ones barely wider than a strand of hair. The ones that carry life into the places you still hope to feel alive. Let's break this down. Erections don't begin in the bedroom. They begin in the bloodstream. And the hero molecule behind it all is nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is like a whisper. It tells your blood vessels, "Open up, let life in." When you're young, your body makes plenty of it. But as the years pass, that whisper fades. And when the vessels stop opening, response stops following. Here's where food becomes more than fuel. It becomes medicine. Natural, gentle, reliable. Walnuts, for example, are rich in a compound called L-arginine. Your body turns it into nitric oxide, which means walnuts don't just feed you, they signal your body to turn the lights back on. Then there's pistachios. Small yet, but powerful. They've been shown to improve endothelial function, the lining of your blood vessels. When that lining softens, blood flows freer. And when blood flows, sensation returns. Almonds work deeper. They're loaded with vitamin E and magnesium, key nutrients for hormone balance. Because without testosterone, blood is just a passenger. It needs the driver. Almonds help the signal stay strong and steady, and Brazil nuts, those quiet giants, carry one of the most critical trace minerals your body needs, selenium. It supports the thyroid, reinforces your hormonal rhythm, and plays a vital role in the quality of circulation and energy throughout the day. Together, these aren't just snacks. They're system restorers. Each one taps into a different switch, flow, signal strength, repair. And when those switches flip, you don't just perform better. You feel more like yourself again. That's the biology behind the story. And it's far more hopeful than you've been told. It always begins with something simple. Not a drug, not a drastic diet. Just one small change, done daily. That's how the healing starts. For Robert, it was walnuts. Each morning, before coffee, before emails, before turning on the news, he'd reach for a small handful, 4 or 5 pieces, no salt, no sugar, just nature, raw and real. Within 2 weeks, he noticed something odd. His fingertips were warmer. His mind felt clearer before noon. But what caught him most off guard was that one morning, without any planning, his body responded. That was the first moment in months he didn't feel like a stranger to himself. Walnuts are powerful, not because they're exotic, but because they're quietly potent. They support nitric oxide, ease the tension in blood vessels, and allow circulation to return where it matters most. Then came Gerald. For him, evenings were the hardest. That soft pressure in his chest, the silence in the bedroom, the uncertainty. He didn't need a stimulant. He needed restoration. I told him about pistachios. A small handful in the evening, unsalted, eaten slowly. He added it to his nightly routine, a kind of ritual. 3 weeks in, his voice changed. "It's not just my body that's different," he said. "It's my mood. I feel warmer, like the lights are on again." Pistachios work gently, repairing the inner lining of blood vessels and encouraging microcirculation. They help turn on the flow, and with it, emotional connection often follows. Then there was Thomas. He didn't come in asking for help with intimacy. He came in asking, "Why don't I feel strong anymore?" The answer was almond-shaped. He began snacking on a few almonds each afternoon. Nothing fancy, just something simple to support his body's natural testosterone production. Over time, he noticed fewer crashes. His steps were firmer. And one afternoon, his wife laughed and said, "You're smiling more again." He hadn't realized he'd stopped. Almonds nourish from the inside out. They're rich in magnesium, vitamin E, and healthy fats that keep the hormonal engine running. And then came Marvin. He was quiet, respectful, and a little skeptical. But what struck me was what he said before leaving. "I'm not trying to be young. I just want to show up for my wife." I asked him to try one thing, one Brazil nut, once a day. He thought it couldn't matter. But after a few weeks, something shifted. He was sleeping deeper, waking with more clarity. His thoughts weren't clouded, and his blood pressure evened out without any changes to medication. That single Brazil nut was restoring his selenium, supporting thyroid health, testosterone, and vascular elasticity. 4 foods, 4 tiny acts of self-respect. When used consistently, they whisper to your body, you're still alive, you're still capable. No side effects, no shame, no rushing, just slow healing, the kind that starts with circulation and ends with something far more powerful, connection. The man once asked me, "Doc, be honest, am I too far gone for this to help?" He was 81. Thin hair, strong eyes, and a lifetime of memories behind him. But in that moment, he looked small, not because of his body, but because of the weight he carried in his heart. I took a breath and told him what I've told hundreds of men before. You are not too old. You are not too late. And no, this isn't about being young again. It's about reminding your body how to live again. You wouldn't expect a muscle to stay strong if you never used it. So why do we expect our blood vessels, our intimacy, our confidence to stay alive while we ignore them? The truth is, most men don't need more medication. They need circulation. They need consistency. They need to know it's still possible, because it is. Every time you choose to nourish your body, even with something as small as a single nut, you're not just feeding yourself. You're sending a signal that says, I'm still here, and I'm not done. Somewhere out there, a man is sitting beside his wife, wondering if the warmth they once had is gone for good. But the truth is, it's not gone. It's just waiting for a sign, a small act of care, a quiet decision that says, I still believe in us. You don't need to change everything. You don't need to chase what's already behind you. All you need is a signal, a head full of walnuts, a shared glance, a soft moment at the end of the day. You are not finished, and neither is your ability to love, to feel, to show up. So if something in this message stirred something inside you, even just a little, then tomorrow morning, before the noise of the world begins, choose one small thing and let it remind your body are still here.